my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock here in the Midwest in the USA, Central Time, 9 o'clock. It's a little bit later where Teece is, but I'm so incredibly grateful that she is here today. And I'm going to introduce Teece, who is a mental health practitioner, actually, doing nature-based work out east. And so a part of kind of my vision in doing these interviews is to inspire people to see that it really can be done, especially if you are considering it. So that's kind of one part of it. And the other part of it is just kind of building this community and knowing that we are all here to support one another. It can be hard work. It can be kind of a lot of unknowns as far as how to build this type of business. And I just think it takes a community. And if we can come together and support one another, I think that's amazing. And that'll just move us forward together. So that's kind of my vision with these interviews that I'm going to be doing. And so today I will welcome Teece, and I'm just going to jump right into it. We are going to take about the next 45 minutes to hear her story, kind of her journey to where she is today, which is incredibly busy, which is a wonderful thing. But she's going to share her journey. So welcome, Teece. Thank you again so much for being here on your very busy Friday. And if you could just share with us your professional journey from where you started to where you are today, I would be incredibly grateful.
Oh, well, thank you. It's such an honor to be here. And I just want to agree with what Lisa said, to have the support of other professionals, because the work that we're all doing is so cutting edge. And it really is nice to say, what are you doing and how are you handling this? And so I think the support in the superheroes group is really amazing. And I just absolutely love Lisa's energy and feel very connected to her. So it's really cool and fun to be part of this group. So I've been a mental health practitioner working with children for over 15 years. I went into private practice, I think 7, 8 years ago. And it was just that I realized that I was a better boss to me than anybody else could be. And so it just was where I needed to be. I have very high expectations for the work that I do. And it's really hard to work under somebody when you have that type of personality. So I chose to practice out of my home and on my private property. My husband and I had a long talk about that because he lives here too. But we did it, I did it on purpose, and I explained it to him that when you're working with children and children are struggling socially, emotionally, that you need to create a safe environment for them. And I couldn't think of any better place to do it than our home. We have a beautiful home on 10 acres of property, sort of out in the country. And I really wanted it to feel like they were going to grandma's house. So you can tell by the gray hair, I'm not in my 20s or 30s. And I really honor the fact that I am a grandmother, but that it was a place for them to come and feel happy, because then I was going to get more authentic work out of them. And so I started, I'm a play therapist. And so I have a beautiful full basement, and it has 2 rooms down there. And sort of one room was what we would call the exercise room, where it had nothing in it but mats on the ground, and they could do gymnastics or shoot basketball or just spin and do hula hoops, just be very physical. And the other is a traditional playroom, where we have a sand tray and all of the manipulatives needed for play therapy. But what I found was that because I live on this beautiful 10 acres, and we have huge trees and a creek, most of it is wooded, that I was taking children outside because that's where I felt comfortable. I grew up very rurally on the eastern shore of Maryland, on the water, and my childhood was spent outside. So I'm very, very comfortable. It's my happy place. I will let you know personally, I grew up with what we now know as attention deficit disorder, and I had dyslexia, which was then called a reading comprehension problem. And so I lived my early childhood very frustrated. My nickname was the hippopotamus, because my mouth was open because I was screaming or crying all of the time because I was so frustrated. And I didn't put all of that together until my beautiful son was born. And he then at age 7 was diagnosed with severe attention deficit and severe dyslexia. And then of course it took me back and made me really put labels to what my childhood was like. So I'm pretty sure that that's what catapulted me into doing my master's in my mid 40s, and becoming a licensed therapist, because I understand what it feels like to be that child that's struggling. And I know as a mom what it's like to be a parent of a child that's struggling, that's laying on the sofa, excuse me, at age 12, crying because he's in a school for all children with dyslexia that come from 9 different counties, and he's not going to a birthday party, and he doesn't have any friends to invite over. And he has 2 younger sisters, and they were in the public school system and they were very active. So it was a real struggle for him. So I'm happy to say he's 35 today. He's got a very amazing job. He's self-sufficient. He has learned to work with his disabilities, and he's an amazing person. But all of that family history is very much part of who I am as a therapist, because I feel like I bring some authenticity to my work. So taking it outside just sort of evolved slowly. And so I was doing it, and I'll never forget my one little client, a little 9-year-old boy, and we were literally walking in the creek, which has, just not even a foot of water. And he was catching frogs, and he suddenly stopped and he goes, "Are we doing therapy?" And I said, "Are we talking about your feelings? Are you telling me about your frustrations at school? Are you talking about your dad and how angry you get at your dad?" And he's like, "Yes, yes, yes." I said, "We're doing therapy." And he goes, "Oh, cool." And he continues to walk in the creek and catch frogs. And that to me was just the biggest aha moment. And I knew I wanted to use nature more because the kids are relaxed and it just comes out. Their feelings come out because you're not staring at them. They're not on, behind the lens. It's real and it's authentic, and you get so much more. And I firmly believe they then retain the information that you're giving them, and then all of the tools and the strategies that I give them as far as breathing and where do you feel the frustration in your body, the mindfulness, all of that is what I call real time. So that then when they're playing with friends, just in a play date, and they get frustrated, they're like, "Oh yeah, that feeling. I need to use the the water faucet and let the energy go, or I need to take in a big balloon breath." And it just feels to me that it's more authentic and more real. So then I went to Hopkins University and did a training with a wonderful woman out of James Madison University, Ann Stewart, who was doing a CEU day or weekend on how to use nature in your therapy. And I'm like, "Oh, this is right up my alley." And that led me down the road. That led me then to Angela Hanscom in Timbernook. And I trained under Angela and was a Timbernook provider for about 2 years. And then that wasn't a good fit for me anymore. And I just, then I created River's Edge Forest Play. And so that's a pretty big umbrella. And we run basically 3 different segments, if you will, in River's Edge Forest Play. So we are really hankering down on the marketing of, who are you? Why do you do what you do? And really trying to understand it. I am a person that leads by my emotions and my intuition. And that's probably because of my dyslexia. And so order and structure is not my strength because of the dyslexia and the attention deficit. But at age 62, I have learned to compensate for all of those things. And I have learned to really trust my intuition. And I have a wonderful person that works for me now, and we're really looking at that. So I know one of your questions, Lisa, was, what is a business tip that you have to offer? And as I was thinking about this interview, I was like, how would I answer that question? That is absolutely it. You have to know who you are. And I didn't do that at first. I just jumped because that's what you do when you have lack of impulse control. You jump, and I'm learning not to leap so much, but I just jumped into it and thought, well, we'll figure this out. Well, we've gotten so big now that you really need to know. So I would encourage anybody who is starting out or thinking about doing this to spend that time before you launch to figure out exactly what is your mission, what is your mission statement, what is your vision statement, and sort of what are your goals. And we have revisited that. I think we're on our third round of that. So as you grow and you expand and you have experience behind you, you realize, oh, wow, we're sort of going more this way. Or I now better understand really what we're doing. And again, that's why I think this group is so valuable, is to be able to throw ideas out. And I do that a lot because I think it takes a village, and I look at us all as a village. So we used to say that our mission statement was nurturing in nature. Well, and that's lovely and it's cute and it's all of that. And it did great for branding for a while, but it didn't really tell us what we were doing. Well, what are you doing? And so we just keep challenging ourselves. What are you doing? What are you doing? So we have three programs. In the summer, we run camp programs, forest camp, and we do that for about 12 weeks. And that's just very light and very fun. And it's typical summer camp, but it's pretty relaxed. We call it summer the old-fashioned way, where you can literally hang in a hammock, drink lemonade, play in the creek. There is structure and there is program, but nobody's mandated to do anything. If you really want to sit and dig in the dirt with your friend for the whole day, that's just fine with us. It's a time for children to relax, engage with nature and their friends, and have no rules and regulations. And that's how I spent my summers. And I think children don't get that opportunity today. They're so regulated. They're like, okay. And even if you go to summer camp, it's like, okay, 2 hours, it's time for art. Now 2 hours is time for archery. 2 hours is time for swimming. And so kids are not learning to self-motivate, to figure out sort of who they are and what they want to do, let alone have any downtime for that poor little brain that is so spun up and stressed to find a homeostasis. So that's what we like to do in the summer. And then in the school year, we run a program called Forest Play. So it's purposefully not a nature kindergarten or a forest kindergarten. It's not school related at all. We do no academics. We feel there's plenty of other programs that are doing the academia. And we believe that a children's language is play. That's how they experience the world. That's what they do. And so we're giving them the opportunity through play to connect with nature, and to learn to connect and communicate appropriately with their peers. And again, because children go into preschool programs or even just daycare as early as 3 months old, but around here, kids are going to preschool at age 3. I mean, in a preschool program where they're learning their letters and their numbers at age 3. And I find that appalling. So we tried to figure out how could we balance that. So again, we're out in nature. We call our different areas camps, and we run 2 programs a day at 2 different locations or camps. And the children are playing. We have mud kitchens, we have tree forts, we have hammocks, and lots of loose parts. And there, we have a swing, and they are just playing. And we, as their guides, are out there to help them learn their social skills. How, if somebody pushed you or bumped you, and you don't just push them back, we'll step in then and say, oh, I can see you're very frustrated. How can you use your words? What we find so often is kids come to you and they want you to fix the problem. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to fix that problem because it's not my problem. It's your problem in Johnny's program. I'm happy to help you, but I need you to go talk to Johnny and tell Johnny how you feel. So we find tremendous growth in confidence, resilience, social skills in our forest play program. And then we have our forest therapy program, which is what a lot of the occupational therapists, mental health therapists are doing, is therapy in nature. And so we run small groups of about 5 kids, 2 practitioners, and 5 children. It's still nature based. So we're outside. What we do is, so we combine occupational therapy and mental health. So it's a real, I think, a bit of a different platform. And so we sort of start, so it's 2 hours. And so we start for about 30 minutes. We start with a lot of heavy work. So we're either playing, games, or we're doing obstacle courses, but we're getting them moving and running. And I mean, we like literally have them move bricks from this pile to that pile. We play construction worker, because we want them to get into their deep muscles. So that basically what we're trying to do is get them into their brains, and into their bodies, rather than being so dysregulated. So we play those, fun games for about 30 minutes. And that's in an area we call our gathering field. So it's literally an open field. And then we take our trek out to the camp, out into the woods. And then we have about 60 minutes, an hour of guided free play. So it's child led. And we always have a goal, but many times that is put on the back burner because it's child led. So we know what this certain group of children, what their goals are and what they're working on. So we have activities to support them in that. But again, we really believe in the free play component and child led, because I, again, think that's authentic and organic. And if we can support children in that modality, then they're going to prosper as they mature. So for instance, last night we had a whole program planned for, we have 4 little guys, and they decided that they wanted to play on this thing we call the spider web, which is ropes that are just wrapped. It looks just like a spider web, and it's great for climbing and vestibular and balance and all sorts of things. And they were having a great time, and they turned it into a game and into a competition. And there was one little guy that was hanging out, and one guy that was being sort of aggressive. And so that's where we then step in and say to the guy that's being aggressive, we may say something like, wow, I see that it's really important for you to win the game every time. Yeah. I'm like, wow, well, I wonder what it would be like to be Sammy over here, who's not able to win because you're sort of pushing him around. And he's like, oh, well, I don't care because I'm going to win. I'm like, yeah, it's really important for you to win. And so we never scold him. We never say you're bad. We just keep pointing out to him. So it was amazing. The little boy that was sort of holding himself out and checking things and watching, by the end of about the hour time period, he had totally jumped in. Now, this is a kid that is high functioning autistic, and he was just really worried about like kneeling in the dirt. So now they're doing a race underneath the spider web, and you can't touch, your back can't touch the ropes, and then you have to touch a tree. And so they totally made this up. And so the one boy that was standing back said, okay, I'm going to have a turn. And I was shocked. And he actually won. But it was like he spent 40 minutes like watching and processing and understanding. And the little guy didn't like that he had won. But they had asked us to be the judges. And I said, well, I'm the judge. And so I get to make the call. I can see you're disappointed, and it's okay to be disappointed. And then the rest of the night, the boy that wanted to win was now friends with this boy. So he was protecting him in other things that he was nervous about. And so he grew respect for that little boy. And to me, that's what mental health therapy is all about. It was a classic, brilliant, beautiful moment. So we're combining the OT in that we have that spider web, and they're doing that balance in the vestibular and the core muscle and things like that. So it really helps me as a mental health practitioner, not an OT, to have an OT on staff with me. And so we have just learned how to flow together. We do it quite beautifully. It's like a dance, but you have to learn, like, when is she going to step in? When am I going to step back? And so I'll give you an example. We've gone on a little bit of a walk, and we have a hammock. And so one of the boys was in the hammock, and they love it. I don't like it so much, but they love it when the hammock goes crazy and it's flipping all over the place, and it feels really risky for them. And so they're like, push me, push me. And so I said, well, ask one of your friends to push you. Well, two of the little boys really did not have that upper body strength, that arm strength to really push the hammock. So they were sort of doing this jerking thing. So my OT stepped in, and she's like, let me help you. And she showed them like how to work together to push and now pull. And she practiced it with them. And son of a gun, they got it, and they were able to do that rhythm and stuff like that. So that's where we really work on. So that was the OT moment. So she's stepping in, and then she's pointing out to me, well, do you see how his arm's up like this? It's because he doesn't have that muscle strength. And so it was pretty cool. And then we go and we have a community snack. And we have lots of children that have food aversions and that sensory, like, I have to eat with my fingers. So we use that time again. You don't have to eat it, but can you please try to spread that peanut butter on the piece of apple? Let's just practice that. So again, Brooke gets in there with that and helps them with the OT. And then the 2 hours are over. They're over really quickly. But it's, like I say, it's just magic. Almost every group, we see huge progress with each of the children. So we're sort of, I don't want to say making it up as we go, but we're still evaluating. So every night after a group, we sit as a team, like, what did we see? Why did we see this? How did this go? And we debrief with ourselves. What went well? What didn't go well? What could we change? So that we're on top of our game. And then what are the goals for next week? So we're constantly referring back to the children's assessments and what they need to be working on. And then we have a parent component, which I'm not sure a lot of people are doing that. So we have once a month an hour consult with each of the parents to talk to them about what we're doing, what we're seeing, and any questions that they might have. And we also send out a monthly webinar, because I'm such a strong component or believer in the parent component. you have to have your parents understanding what's going on in their child's body and in their child's brain. And most parents don't have the time to research that and to learn about that and to understand that, but they have to know that in order to be able to relate and connect with their children. So the force therapy program is has many components to it, and is quite involved. But it's going great. So yeah, 3 programs going. It can be intense at times, but I just look back and go, wow, we're doing amazing work. We're servicing many, many children in a time in our world when it's really chaotic, and children's stress levels are so heightened. So that's sort of what keeps us going.
I had a question for you, T. So in your development of what kind of sounds like this kind of beautiful new model in nature where you've brought OT and mental health together. And by the way, I've just been consulting with a mental health practitioner too. So thank you for inspiring me to look at that further, because I do think it's a beautiful connection, to have both of those disciplines together supporting children, especially right now when we see all of these issues in the world with more stress, more anxiety, definitely needed. But who have been, when you're looking at, I know you mentioned one person that you kind of gleaned some knowledge from, but out there in the world of anything else that you would recommend to people to read if they are mental health practitioners in regards to nature work, any knowledge out there that they should be seeking? And I think if I remember, you are also working on how you can share this with professionals. Would that be another next step for you?
Yeah.
Speak to that.
To be very honest, Lisa, I haven't found anybody in the mental health field that's using nature. I have looked, so anybody out there knows anybody, please let me know. I have researched it and researched. There is, and I'm not going to remember it right now. I think there is a group in England, but I don't find them very active. And of course now with COVID, any trainings and everything is pretty shut down. So that's where I say I'm doing this intuitively. I have studied with a lot of OTs. I have, I have my little core group of OTs that I follow really regularly, and I do regular sort of trainings with them. I'm doing some work now with one of them, and but I just go back and glean most of my um, theory and belief system from Dan Siegel in California, and Tina Payne Bryson. I just get them. I believe very strongly in their work. And so we're just doing, so if you understand the theory, you can take that and do that in, whether it's the playroom or whether it's in nature, or wherever. But there is very, very little out there in the mental health field, which I find startling, considering mental health, number one, is what OT grew out of. I just learned that. I didn't know that until the other day, out of our lovely Shepherd Pratt Hospital here in Baltimore. But mental health practitioners knew way ahead of OTs that nature is a calming place, and it helps with depression. And I mean, that's all been studied, but there's so few. Maybe it's just that there's not many people doing it with children. I mean, you certainly have your forest bathing movement, and and all of that. So I just read all of that stuff. So I have the theory, and then I just adapt it to my children. It's sort of been a make it up as you go with a professional head along the way, if you know what I mean. We're making it up. So we are in the process, and this scares the heck out of me to even say this publicly. But we are contemplating, and probably moving ahead with putting out some type of a manual or some type of a a way for people to understand this better, because it's big in the OT world, but it is not big in the mental health world. And it needs to be, because children's mental health is at a crisis level right now. So I don't know what it's going to look like. And because of my own dyslexia and attention deficit, the thought of writing a manual or anything like that just blows me away. So I have this wonderful woman, Brooke, who works with me, who's the OT, and so we're working on this together. And she's brilliant at it. So that makes me feel a little bit more accomplished and able to really get it done. So she basically interviews me, and then she writes it down, and she'll figure out how to put it in a manual. But I think it's necessary. And it's not because I want to do it, it's because it's necessary. And at this stage in my life, it's all about just helping more children. And it's not about my making a name for myself. I don't care about any of that sort of stuff. It's about, I'm passionate about children. I have been. That's why I switched careers in my mid 40s and started doing this kind of work, because I'm so worried about our children. They are our future. And here I am at the other end of my life thinking, oh my gosh, the generation that's going to take care of me, if I should hopefully not ever end up in a nursing home or an assisted living, are they going to have compassion? Are they going to understand what it means to connect with somebody? And I really worry that the answer to that is no, maybe not so much so. So I just think it's so important to get our children back connected with nature and with their spirit, their soul, their sense. They are nature, you know. So you know, it's sort of a mission, a life work for me. It's not just a job, but it is. I feel passionate about it. So yep, it's probably coming. I don't know when.
I have goosebumps. So I'm going to take that as a sign that it's coming. Just beautiful. And I echo everything you said, and you articulate so very well. And I do, going back to what you had said earlier about really trying to articulate what that magic is. I mean, I have struggled with that too. Like, I can see it happening, but then to define it and put it into words, and then to kind of share that with families or other professionals to really tell the world kind of, you know, the outcome of this has been something that I feel called to do too. I mean, that's why I have this platform. Like, we need to be able to not just say nature's great, but why is it great? And what's happening in those moments as we provide this space for children, as we support them or facilitate those steps in development. So it's an ongoing challenge, but you're well on your way. And all your words that you said today, you know, describe the magic beautifully. And thank you for sharing your stories, some actually real life stories. I think that's helpful too, for people to really hear and visualize what it can look like in a day. Yeah, so thank you for that. So I'm going to check on Facebook to see if we have any questions. I see there are some people watching. If anybody has any questions, please let us know and put it in the comment section. If not, I do, if you have a favorite, like a quote that kind of inspires you or keeps you moving forward, how do you fill your own cup? And I know for me, filling my cup is seeing the faces of children. So that might be your answer. But if there's anything else that really kind of keeps you moving forward, if you wouldn't mind sharing that too, as we come to a close here.
Sure. One of the other things I wanted to also say, Lisa, is that this year, so we're in our 5th year of doing this. So this year, I've always said we need to document, we need to assess. So, because we need to sort of validate what we're doing. So I'm talking more about the forest play program rather than the forest therapy, because of course we use sensory processing and the Vineland and interviews and stuff to do our assessments for the forest therapy. But for our forest play program, my friend Emily found the Forest School Assessment. So it's out of the UK, and it's an amazing assessment. It's not very expensive. And so we've been tracking our children this year with that assessment, and it's amazing. We're going to have some really great results of growth at the end of the year. So I would encourage everybody to be sure, no matter what kinds of programs you're running, that you are assessing and validating, so that we will have some metrics for this work that we can fall back on. So yes.
Can you repeat the book that you said, or the
Yeah,
assessment?
you can just Google it. I think it's called the Forest School Assessment.
Okay. Forest School Assessment. Thank you.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate 2 summers ago, I think, to fly out to Vashon Island, Washington, and to train under Erin Kenny. And I always get emotional when I talk about her, because she passed away about 6 weeks after I did the training. She had lost her battle with ovarian cancer. And this woman was feisty, controversial, and an absolute guru in the field of forest kindergarten. And to train under her and to feel her passion and her true understanding. She was cutting edge, one of the brought forest kindergarten to the United States from Europe. And so she's had a huge impact on my work, but probably more my spirit and my drive and my understanding of who I am as a practitioner, as a guide to young children. So it's her quote that I look at every day, also because of my own attention deficit disorder. And that quote goes something like, kids can't bounce off the walls if you take the walls away. And, meaning kids need to be outside, they need to be playing. And if they don't have those restrictions, then they can't be sit down, don't do that, da, 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 because they're free to be who I believe God made children to be, which is to run and to swing and to spin and to roll, climb, yell, hoot, holler, and just use all 8 of their senses to explore the world. And I think she just got that so brilliantly. Yes, she could be controversial at times, but I think anybody that's cutting edge and anybody that's a leader in the field has to be controversial, because that's how you get the attention. And I think she did that so brilliantly and has really left a huge legacy in this country.
For sure. Thank you for that, Teece. I appreciate that. Just some comments about they can't wait to watch the full replay. Thanks, Katia. I see. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, just some very nice comments here. Anybody have any questions for Teece or comments? Thanks for watching, everybody that was on the live. I'm so excited that I figured this live thing out, so that'll be good. Because I have, more scheduled here. Awesome. All right, Teece, I think that's it for today then. Thank you so much for being who you are and doing the work that you are doing. I know it can be a lot, but I'm just so grateful, and I'm sure all the children will thank you forever and ever, and their families as well, for the work that you do day in and day out. So have a wonderful day, everybody. Happy Friday. I do hope that you get to spend some time in nature for yourself this weekend. So anything else that you'd like to close with, Teece, before we wrap up?
No, just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing what you're doing, and for bringing us together and giving us a platform to share. And then I just want to remind everybody, at least here on the East Coast, it's a beautiful, beautiful day, and going to be a beautiful weekend. And it's so important that we get outside and we practice what we preach. And so I like to go and lean against a big beech tree. The beech trees are my favorite trees. They're so big and majestic, and just feel that energy that comes up through their roots to recharge me. So go connect with nature and have a beautiful weekend. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you, everybody.
All
Enjoy
right.
your day.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.